Hello, beautiful people. This is your girl, Nique. For those of you who don't know me, I am a singer, songwriter, artist, and I do R&B, soul, pop music. I am originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was based in LA for a long time, and now I'm back in sunny South Florida. So today's gonna be a little bit different from my usual cover videos. I wanted to kind of introduce myself to some of you guys who don't really know me, and kind of introduce myself to those of you who kind of know me but don't really know much about how I got my start in music, and kind of where I am today, the journey to get here, and just to let you know that it is so far from over. It is just the beginning. I have so much in store for you guys, so just stick with me through this video and through my journey. I appreciate every last one of you who have been supporting me on this journey, this process, and again, like I said, this is only the beginning. So let's get right into the video. So like I said, I was born and raised in sunny South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I lived in LA for a long time. And I loved it. Honestly, it was an amazing experience, but now I'm back home for a little while. So that is also a new experience for me too, because I haven't lived here in such a long time. But from the beginning, growing up, I was always into music. And I think this is just mainly because like my parents really love music. My mom, she was always into gospel, so she would always take us to church with her, and that was a huge part of my life, you know, church choirs and listening to church solos and the women and men up there pouring out their hearts to the Lord. And then my dad, he used to play a lot of music in the cars, so whenever we were traveling with him and stuff like that, or whenever we had like trips together, he would play a lot of like music then for like the 80s and 90s, but that had such a huge impact on me. Like I remember hearing like Jodeci, H-Town, Aaliyah, Michael Jackson, like so many of these like influential artists that even still today impact my music, and I still listen to them, and they're the classics, you know. So coming from that background of like church, and as well as like a huge R&B, pop, and like rock, even rock and reggae too. I can't even forget reggae. My parents are Jamaican, so a lot of reggae influences as well, and dancehall influences also. So coming from that background, really all started with, you know, watching movies. And I remember my first recollection of a time where I kind of discovered that, okay, maybe I can do this, was when I stumbled across the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill CD. My dad had so many CDs of like the best artists ever. And I played this CD, and I must have played this CD out for ever. Like even still to this day, I play this CD out. Like I played this CD so many times that it had a crack in it or like a chip in it. And if you're y'all 90s babies, 80s babies, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. When you play a CD so much that it has a scratch in it, so when it gets to like a certain point in like the songs, it just like starts glitching. Yeah, I probably aged myself a little bit on that one, but yeah, when I found that CD, I fell in love. I wanted to be like Lauryn Hill. I wanted to sing like Lauryn Hill. I wanted to sing in the way that she touched my heart. I didn't know what love was, okay? I didn't know anything about love or relationships, but I just knew. I was like, the love that she's talking about, as complicated as it may seem, it made me feel something that I never even thought music could do. So that was really my first experience with like hearing something that just like took my breath away and like really like penetrated my heart. And then one day I'm watching a movie, I'm watching Fighting Temptations with Beyonce and Cuba Gooding Jr. For those of you who don't know, it's a classic movie. Go watch it. And I'm watching this movie, and there's some parts in there where Beyonce starts singing, and she is like in a club singing these songs, and I remember like trying to imitate her. So I'm like trying to imitate her, and I'm like singing the songs. I must have watched this movie a million times. And I'm singing the songs, and my aunt is here, and she comes around, and she's like, wait a minute, who is that, you know? And she's like, is that Monique? And she was like, wow, you can really sing, you know? And so that's kind of where my awareness of like, okay, I really love this. I want to be like Lauryn Hill, you know, just by like imitating and like trying to sound like Beyonce and like trying to sound like artists was kind of where I developed that like love and passion for like singing and like entertaining. So from a very young age, I started doing like talent shows and winning. Surprisingly, started doing like talent shows at my school and winning, and I started getting into a little bit of like acting, not too much because that really wasn't the passion at the time, but like musicals. I would do a lot of musicals. I really enjoyed musicals, and that's kind of where my earlier days started with the music. I also played the piano. How could I forget that? I played the piano for years, and I love and adored classical music. Like Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was like my favorite thing to play. Like that was my all-time favorite thing to play. And I need to relearn it. Right now, I'm like relearning the piano as we speak. So right now, I know how to play a couple of songs like Ordinary People and If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. So I know how to play a couple of things. I'm like getting back into it slowly but surely. And so coming from that, you know, non-traditional kind of DIY, as they call it, background, and then also the classical background of like learning how to play piano and learning how to read music. That's kind of where like my early days came from. I demanded my parents to get me a karaoke machine. And when I got old enough, I got the karaoke machine. I got a CD player. Lord have mercy, that's aging me too, because if you are also a 90s baby, you know about the CD players, okay? Listen, do not age me. I'm not that old. I'm very young, very vibrant. But I used to burn CDs with my friends. So we used to get CDs and burn them and put like all the songs on them. So I would have CDs for everything. I was really into like West Coast rap. So I would have like Pharrell. I would have, you know, Snoop Dogg. I would have Tupac. And I was big into hip hop too. So now as I'm getting older and I can, you know, buy as many CDs as I want and like get cassette tapes, my musical influences started to kind of widen. And so I got really big into hip hop, really big into R&B, soul music, Mariah Carey's, you know, Destiny's Child and Aaliyah. And now I was a little bit older, so I could kind of understand the things that they were talking about, the things that they were singing about. So that's kind of how that went. And then when I got to high school, I transitioned to becoming an athlete. It was kind of like an unexpected thing. It wasn't really something that I, you know, wanted to do initially, like this is what I'm going to do. I kind of fell into it. And when I fell into it, I had a really great mentor who really pushed me to be the best that I could be. And so I was excelling in this thing, and it wasn't really my passion of what I really necessarily wanted to do. So I had a lot of moments where, you know, I wanted to choose or felt like I needed to choose. And I never really got the grasp of like the balance of being able to do both. So when I was about to graduate, I had a scholarship waiting for me, and, you know, I had options at the time. And I didn't really know anything about music. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to start. And I actually stumbled into a studio one day and wrote my first song at like 13. Like stumbled into the studio, wrote my first song. We like pretty much produced the whole thing from scratch. My first song, and then we made like a couple other songs, and then like a few that I never got to complete. But that's when I got my first like real taste of like, oh, I'm in the studio, like I'm recording, like, you know what I'm saying? These are songs that I still have. They will probably never see the light of day, but they're not bad. Honestly, they're not bad. For 13-year-old me, like, she knew what she wanted to sound like. She knew how she wanted to layer her vocals. Like, for 13-year-old me, it was really good. And I remember playing it for my parents, and they were like shocked, honestly. And to me, it was just like, it felt like second nature. You know, nobody taught me how to layer vocals. And honestly, I was really the one that was doing a lot of like the vocal production stuff. I was just going based off of, you know, the music that I heard and loved already. I'm like, okay, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. Maybe let me put another, you know, backtrack on here. Let me put some ad libs there. Like, you know, just going based off of what I heard and would listen to. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is what it's supposed to be like. So when I got a taste of that, I couldn't stop. Honestly, it was like this feeling that you don't experience often, but it just brings you like this fire. It's just like ignites this flame. So when I was faced with the choice of having to choose, you know, take the traditional route and get a college degree, you know, especially in the circumstances that I had it, which was just like a once in a lifetime chance, and choosing something that was completely unknown, I chose the traditional route. And honestly, that's probably the best thing at the time, was the best decision for me. I have no regrets about taking that route, because it's brought me songs right now that I wouldn't have been otherwise. I would not have otherwise been able to create without those experiences. And my college career took me all the way to California, which is how I ended up in LA. So a lot of the songs that you hear about, a lot of the relationships that you hear about, you know, a lot of the love, the lust, the sex, the, you know, everything, all of it happened in Los Angeles. And even before that, you know, so I'm grateful for that experience. And not only that, the producers that I worked with, the people that I collaborated with, the features that are out there that I have with other people, you know, a lot of that happened from my life there and my connections there, and kind of, you know, the world that I built around myself as an artist in LA. So I'm grateful for that experience. Honestly, it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I get to California, I do track, have an amazing experience, travel so many places, meet so many different people, graduate, and I know that I don't want to be a professional athlete. And for some people, if you really know me, you know, like, I had some people really mad at me when I made that decision, because I was really good at it. And honestly, I had made it to the trials on accident in 2016. So had I really applied myself and really put in, you know, the work and really like streamlined, focused on that goal, it's no telling, you know, that I would have taken it as far as I wanted to take it, and then the Olympics would have been well within reach. However, in my heart of hearts, I was like, when am I going to get time to do music? When am I ever going to make that a priority? So I decided to take the road less traveled, and I finally was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We don't have a way, we don't know what we're doing, we don't have a plan, but this is it. That was it. And I took it and I was like, all right, where do we start? Now, this is in a time where life has changed. Music videos changed. Streaming now is a thing. You know, virality, going viral on YouTube and other platforms changed. The way that the music industry, you know, finds artists, discovers artists, change. Even down to like the the shows, the music shows like the American Idols and stuff like that, all of those things have changed. So I'm coming into a time where so many changes have happened from when I first had this dream back when I was like 12, 13, and now I'm in my 20s, you know, just starting this, what seems like bigger than life, you know, dream of mine. But I did it. Baby steps, you know. I'm a really good student. I picked up a book and I read a book, you know, and learned. I looked around, you know what I mean? I researched and I asked people. I went to conferences. I got in the studio, you know. I linked up with the connections that I had made that I wasn't even honestly using. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like, you don't know it, but I'm ready, so let's start working. And that's what I did. I started making songs. I was in the studio like multiple nights a week. Like, I was just pumping them out. I was writing all the time, like crazy, going crazy. And fast forward, I was doing that for a while, probably like about a year or two, and I never put anything out. Nobody had ever heard me outside of the studio. And it was kind of getting to that crossroads of like, okay, you can be an artist, but when are you going to put it out? When are people going to hear all the stuff that you've been working on like tirelessly for the last like 2 years? And so the pandemic hit. So that was, you know, the panoramic. The world changed and everybody got silent and had to really reconfigure what was important to them in their life. And I was in a situationship at the time that was not serving me at all, and I was feeling a lot of different ways about it, but mainly I was feeling very reflective of like, what were the roads that took me to this place, you know? And I started writing. I was like, that's the best way I know how. Like, I started writing, and in that I was like, you know what, I feel like this can be better as like songs. And so I had the brilliant idea to write about like significant relationships that I feel like impacted who I was at that time, you know, those relationships that kind of built my mindset and kind of molded, you know, the way that I approach certain things, the way that I approach love. And so I started writing. And in that, it was probably the most therapeutic experience I've ever had when it comes to like the music. I wrote those songs in like 4 days, 4 or 5 songs in like 4 or 5 days. And I was crying, I was happy, I was sad, I was glad, I was so many different emotions. And I remember I got to the studio and I recorded all these songs. I text my producer, I'm like, I'm coming in hot. Like, I'm coming in hot. And I remember recording all these songs, and it was, my recording process is typically solo. I don't really need a whole entourage in the studio and stuff like that. But around this time, I think a lot of people were recording. So like occasionally, you know, some people would slip in and like come in during our sessions. And I remember like when I was kind of wrapping up all the songs, I was like, well, that was great. Let me wash my hands of this, because nobody's ever going to hear this. This would never see the light of day. And everybody kind of just looked at me like, girl, what? Are you crazy? Like, people need to hear this, you know? Like, people have these experiences, and like the way that you articulate them, nobody else is articulating them like you are. Like, you need to share this, you know? And so after some thought, I was just like, okay, you know what? I think you guys might have a point. And I shared it with some other people that I know, like some friends of mine and stuff like that, because obviously it was a big deal. It's my first time putting out music. But in the same token, I was really, after I finished the songs, it was like I kind of purged something in me. Like, the attachment was gone. It served its purpose. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's put it out. And so that started the process of me really entering into that independent artist, you know, lane of learning how to market, learning how to, you know, put it on the platform, and, you know, learning how to start and run campaigns, learning how to do so many different things, the music videos, the photo shoots, like everything in one was kind of all a learning process for me. It was new, but it was something that I knew was necessary if I wanted to really like stretch and reach as many people as humanly possible. So that was now about 2 years ago. And I think I put out the project probably maybe like 6 months after that. So right now, a little bit less than 2 years. But yeah, I released my first song and it was like so sad. But it was honestly such an amazing experience. And now fast forward, I just released a song. If you have not listened to it, stop what you're doing and please go listen. It is called Better, and I will add it in the description below. It is just about not being bitter. You know, I feel like this is also another reflective body of work that's coming along with this single. Is like, I'm in a different era. Like, I'm not Heartbreak Drake anymore. You know, like, it's summertime. It's a different era from my life. So this project is definitely going to reflect that. And I've had some relationships that have not quite, you know, panned out. So I think moving away from that and kind of rediscovering myself and kind of getting back to me, I think is a huge reflection of this next project that I'm about to put out. So thank you so much for sticking with me and riding with me on this little roller coaster of how I started my music journey. I hope this was interesting for you guys. And if you guys have questions, please let me know. I am pretty much an open book. So if you have questions, let me know. And if you can relate to any of this, please let me know. For my artists out there, or for people who are also, you know, chasing your dreams and you don't know how to start or you don't know where to start. There's no rubric of how to do it and you're just wanting to take that risk. I believe in you. You can do this. And this is only the beginning. So watch out, because I have some more music coming. Just get ready, okay? Stick with me. Stick with me. Thank you so much, guys.